Hey up internet and welcome to On the Sofa Live. If you're new, do subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. I think I'll do that again. Hey up internet and welcome back to On the Sofa Live. If you're new, do subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. Yeah, I think that one was better. Okay. We've got a lot to get through tonight. A lot to get through. So let's do it. Let's do this. I think we'll start with the local election results. Because before we get into the whole leadership race that's happening, I think we need to talk about how we got here. So let's start with the results in England. Hang on. If I can find it. Hang on. Something's gone amiss here. It's a live show. Let's have a look. Right. That is the one. Okay. All right. I think we've got it now. Okay. So in the local elections, Reform UK won big in England. They got 1,454 seats, councillors. So as you can see from this so sorry about this. So as you can see from this bar chart, Reform UK did very well in England, it seems. They got 1,454 councillors. Labour got 1,068. They lost 1,498. The Liberal Democrats gained 155 with a total of 844. The Conservatives lost 563 and got a total of 801. The Green Party gained 441 with a total of 587, and Independents, they gained 35 with a total of 213. Labour seat share tumbles after elections in England, Scotland and Wales. The political landscape in Scotland, Wales and England's councils. Sorry, I'll start that again. Labour seat share tumbles after elections in England, Scotland and Wales by Adam Goldsmith. The political landscape in Scotland, Wales and England's councils has shifted dramatically over the past 3 days. On Thursday, voters went to the polls. Ballots were cast for seats in the Senate, Holyrood, local councils and some mayoral elections in England. Counting lasted through the night, and by early Friday morning, the results began trickling in. Labour lost control of its first council at 2:01 in the morning, British summer time. The result in Redditch was a sign of things to come for Keir Starmer's party. And there's a handy bar chart here. England councillors, after 5,034 of 5,036 seats declared. Reform UK now have 1,453 councillors. Labour have 1,068. The Lib Dems have 844. Conservative have 801. The Green Party has 587. Independents and others 245. Residents Association 36. Reform's sweeping gains became apparent early on and continued to build throughout Friday, leading up to a total of over 1,400 councillors. As the picture in England became clearer, with Labour and Tory losses making way for Reform and Green gains, results for the Senedd and Holyrood began pouring in. There was soon bad news for Welsh Labour as First Minister Eluned Morgan arrived at account expecting to lose her seat and the election, and she did. The BBC forecast Plaid Cymru to become the largest party in the Senedd at around 4:30. Less than 2 hours later, it had picked up 43 of the 96 seats available, 6 short of a majority. And these are the Welsh Parliament results. Plaid Cymru 43, Reform UK 34, Labour 9, Conservative 7, Green 2, Lib Dem 1. This is an appalling defeat for Labour. Labour have been dominant in Wales for about 100 years. So for them to lose so many seats in Wales is historic. It's seismic. This is really embarrassing for Labour in Wales, and indeed all over the UK. Meanwhile, in Scotland, Labour admitted defeat. A sea of yellow crossed the country as John Swinney's SNP took the most seats, but it also fell short of a majority. And here's the map. Scottish Parliament constituency results: SNP 57, Lib Dem 7, Conservative 4, Labour 3, Scottish Green 2. Again, Labour have done appallingly here in Scotland. Appallingly. It's looking bad for them in Scotland as well. Today, Starmer admitted Labour made unnecessary mistakes, but refused calls from Labour MPs to quit. As the final few council results were declared, he appointed Labour veterans Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman to advisor roles. Yeah, that will really help things. Appointing these old fossils from the Blair Brown years. Unbelievable. But hours later, a surprise ultimatum was issued as Labour MP Catherine West told the PM's cabinet, "Challenge Starmer by Monday or I will." And we know now that that challenge didn't materialise. I think because she realised there was no way that she was going to get 81 MPs to back her. It just wasn't going to happen. As our chief political correspondent writes, this doesn't necessarily mean that West wants to be Labour's next leader, but it does challenge Starmer's position ahead of a widely trailed speech he's set to make on Monday. We're pausing our live coverage there, but there's further reading on the election results across BBC News. I don't think I needed to read that, did I? West Yorkshire's Labour mayor says election results catastrophic for party. And she's right. She's absolutely right. It is catastrophic. The Labour mayor of West Yorkshire has said that her party is facing oblivion if Thursday's local election performance is repeated, calling it a catastrophic set of results for the party. Tracy Brabin says in a statement that we cannot waste the opportunity of Labour being in government and that people are impatient for change. Labour suffered heavy losses across West Yorkshire, losing Wakefield and Calderdale to Reform UK and losing control of Leeds and Kirklees. The Labour leader of Bradford Council lost her seat to Reform UK. Tracy Brabin declines to address the question of the Labour Party's leadership directly in her statement, but she says there is still time left to deliver a brighter future for the people of this country. But she warns that it needs to happen quickly and decisively with a renewed boldness. Oh, greetings, sentient beings. Welcome, Purple. Thanks for joining. Labour loses in Wales. does that mean marine mammals are lazy? I heard there was a walrus that gave you a lot of problems just lying about. Hilarious. Oh, Purple says that she got off work early today. That's good. Brilliant. But the upshot of all this is that Labour have done really badly in these local elections. And so now Starmer is under pressure to resign. And over 90 MPs have called for his resignation now. And I don't think Starmer can survive. He may still be the Prime Minister at the moment. He may still be the leader of the Labour. He may still be the Prime Minister at the moment and be the leader of the Labour Party, but he's a dead man walking. I don't think he'll survive much longer. I really don't. And in my opinion, the reason for all these defeats in the local elections is because Starmer is hated and Labour are hated more generally. And it's mostly because Starmer's a liar. He lied to become the leader of the Labour Party, and basically everything he says is a lie. And he keeps U-turning, and he lost the boomer vote when he threatened to take away their winter fuel payments. He lost the disabled vote because he's lost the disabled vote because he's made it really difficult for people to claim PIP. He's made it more difficult to he's also reduced the Labour Party have also reduced welfare spending, so that's made them unpopular as well. And on top of all of that, they have been consistently enabling this genocide in Gaza. They've been selling arms to Israel. They've been sending spy planes from RAF Akrotiri, and they've been training IDF soldiers here in the and they've been training IDF soldiers here in the UK. So they're unpopular with the right. They're unpopular with the left, and that's why they've lost votes. They've lost so many councillors. And that's why they've lost so many councils in these local elections. And I don't think there's any way back for Labour. I think they're going to get defeated in the general election. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Purple was saying, hoping things will look as bad for the Republicans here in November. Yeah, here's hoping. Excuse me. Here's hoping. Anyway, Let me know if you'd like to join Purple, and I'll send you the link. I'll send you an invite link. What have we got next? Oh, yes. As I've already alluded to, the Scottish National Party won in Scotland. SNP leader John Swinney will hold talks with opposition parties except Reform UK. So, by the looks of things, they won 58 seats, but they needed 65 seats for a majority. So, if they're not going to do a deal with Reform UK, then that leaves Labour or the Scottish Greens. Obviously, they're not going to work with the Conservatives either. And I think it's highly unlikely that they'll work with the Liberal Democrats. And since Labour don't want Scotland to have independence, the Scottish Green Party do, I think it's more likely that they'll work with the Scottish Greens to form a majority in Scotland. But we'll see. After the SNP won its fifth consecutive election, but without an outright majority, party leader John Swinney said he would talk to opposition leaders over the coming days except Reform UK. The Nationalists secured 58 seats. Scottish Labour and Reform came joint second with 17. The Scottish Greens won 15. The Scottish Conservatives ended with 12, and the Scottish Lib Dems 10. Reform UK Scotland leader Malcolm Offord says his party should be designated the main opposition to the SNP because it won a greater share of the vote than Labour. Scottish Green co-leader Ross... I'll start that one again. Scottish Green co-leader Ross Greer said his party would continue to work constructively with a new SNP government. Scottish Labour leader Anisawa admits his party lost the argument for change and was hurting. Elections also took place in England and Wales, where Plaid Cymru became the largest party. Scottish Parliament election 2026, the roundup. The SNP has won its fifth Scottish Parliament election in a row, taking 58 seats. It is by far the largest party, but is short of an overall majority. Anisawa said his party was hurting after they fell well short of challenging for leadership of the Scottish Parliament. They lost 4 seats overall. Reform UK won its first seats in Holyrood and ended the night with 17 MSPs, putting them on a par with Scottish Labour. It was also a big election for the Scottish Greens, who gained their first constituency MSPs in Edinburgh, Central and Glasgow South Side, in addition to their 13 regional seats. The Scottish Conservatives lost the most seats in Holyrood, returning just 12 of their MSPs. Yeah, I thought the Scottish Conservatives were going to do badly because the Conservative Party they're in the wilderness basically. Yeah, they've lost really badly across the board. I think they're dying in England, Scotland, and Wales. I don't see the Conservative Party lasting much longer, to be honest. The Scottish Liberal Democrats gained 6 MSPs. Today, John Swinney said his party won the election emphatically, calling it a landslide for a pro-independence parliament. And that's correct. It is a landslide for pro-independence because obviously the Scottish National Party are pro-independence, but so are the Scottish Greens as well. And together they can form a majority. So it is a landslide for pro-independence. He said he intends to invite all Scottish party leaders to St Andrew's House next week to discuss how they can work together, except the leader of Reform UK in Scotland. I personally think that the leader of the Scottish Conservative Party should be excluded as well. But, well, that's just my opinion. Malcolm Offord made the case for Reform UK to be granted opposition privileges, arguing they got a bigger vote share than Scottish Labour. The Greens said they would be open to working with the SNP. The Scottish Conservatives ruled out any working relationship with Reform. It's been a hectic few days. Oh, there's no need to read that, I don't think. So those are your bullet points. Oh, Purple is saying that she doesn't know enough. She doesn't know enough about British politics to add anything intelligent. Oh, I think you sell yourself short. But she'll just heckle from the side chat. She's listening, but her hands are busy, so there won't be too many comments. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So, but in my opinion, the Scottish National Party are the clear winners in Scotland. Even though they fell short of getting a majority, they'll be able to form a majority government with the help of the Scottish Greens, who also are in favour of Scottish independence. So it looks like Scottish independence could well be back on the table in the near future. Who knows? Watch this space. We shall see. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. What have we got next? I think we need to talk about the Welsh results, don't we? I have practiced pronouncing this person's name, but I'm not sure if I can quite get it right. But I'll give it my best shot. Bryn ap Yrith, sworn in as Wales's new First Minister. And there's a picture of him there. Summary. Following a vote, Plaid Cymru's Bryn ap Yrith is confirmed as First Minister of Wales. In his first speech in the Senedd, he calls it the greatest privilege of my life, adding something is stirred in the soil of Wales. He was sworn in by a High Court judge and is now legally the political head of the Welsh Government. Leader of Reform UK in the Senedd, Dan Thomas, says they will be a robust opposition that will hold Plaid to account. Labour's Hugh Inra Davies is selected as the new presiding officer, or Lyrd in Welsh, with Plaid's Kerry Ferguson becoming deputy. Plaid Cymru's win ends 27 years of Labour leading Welsh governments. After a bit of a delay, Plaid Cymru's leader has been sworn in and is now the leader of the first non-Labour Welsh government. Next for him is to appoint members of his cabinet, but that will likely happen tomorrow on his first day in the job. Yeah, this is a great historic win for Plaid Cymru. They're the Welsh Independence Party. And in my opinion, that puts Welsh independence firmly on the table now. They Plaid Cymru certainly have a good argument for Welsh independence now that they are in charge of the Welsh Senedd. So I think it's only a matter of time that Wales gain their independence, or at the very least, there's a referendum for independence. It's looking more likely than it did before, put it that way. Ep Yrith received 44 votes in the Senedd to confirm his... I'll start that again. Excuse me. Ep Yrith received 44 votes in the Senedd to confirm him as First Minister of Wales. In his acceptance speech, Ep Yrith said it was the greatest privilege of my life, and he is eager to repay the trust that the people in Wales have placed in us to achieve change. It then took 3 hours for Ep Yrith's confirmation as First Minister to be authorised by King Charles III. At the Senedd, Dan Thomas said his group will form a robust opposition, adding that there is a pro-union majority in the Senedd and the future of a prosperous Wales lies within a successful United Kingdom. Labour's interim leader, Ken Skates, said he's saddened by his party's losses, but is looking forward to being an effective opposition. Comparing Labour's 9 MS to the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. That's hilarious. Gordon Bennett. Oh dear, how they can spin this as a win is beyond me. It's pathetic. They're delulu. Absolutely delulu. The Conservatives' Darren Miller congratulated Ep Yrith but says the cold reality is waiting for you in the morning. That sounds vaguely ominous, referring to issues with the NHS and the Welsh economy. Labour's Hugh Iranka Davis was also elected as the Centre's new presiding officer. So this is a great win for Plaid Cymru, a great win for them, and a great loss for Labour. And for this is a great win for Plaid Cymru, but a great loss for the Labour Party. And if the Labour Party are trying to spin this as a win for them, they're delusional. They're delusional. They're finished in Wales. There's no coming back from this. They're done. They are done. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, I'm going to take a short break because nature calls. I'll be back in a jiff. Okay, back again. What next? Right. Hang on. Hang on. Which one am I doing next? That's not the one. No. I've got too many tabs open. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now that we've talked about the disastrous results for Labour, we can get into the the leadership challenges and Starmer's the pressure that Starmer is under. This is from the Canary. Starmer promises not to plunge the country into chaos. Too late, buddy. Yeah, it is too late. The country is already in chaos. That ship has already sailed. And he's only got himself to blame. Keir Starmer is refusing to quit after dire results for Labour at the polls, saying, "I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos." It reminds me of that scene from Wolf in Wall Street. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving! The show goes on! Oh dear. I'm not fucking leaving. Yeah. Oh dear. I'm not going to. Keir Starmer. He's hardly Leonardo DiCaprio, is he? Let's face it. The article goes on. Ah, yes, Starmer, the man who spent years branding Jeremy Corbyn unelectable, promising competence, and telling voters that Labour had changed, has just left the party to one of its worst electoral defeats in history. You created the chaos. You created the chaos, Starmer. And there's a tweet from Sky News. I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into darkness. Let's try again. This tweet is from Sky News. I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer reflects on really tough results from the local elections in England, with Labour losing hundreds of council seats. Let's see what he had to say.
Let me be clear, these are really tough results. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And we have lost brilliant Labour representatives, people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party and our movement. And the voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. Labour's elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges. and plunge the country into chaos.
They want to change you.
Well, they've sent a message that the change that we promised isn't being delivered in a way they can feel, and also, frankly, they're fed up with years of the status quo. But we were elected to deal with those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from that and to plunge the country into chaos.
Did you contemplate that the problem might be you, that you might need to go to help Labour win these seats back? Did you even contemplate it? Did you acknowledge it as a conversation even?
But I think it's absolutely clear that the electorate are fed up with the fact that their lives aren't changing quickly enough. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. I think that we were right to emphasise to the country the difficult inheritance we had, the challenges we face, but we haven't done enough to convince people that things can improve, their lives can get better, the hope. And I'm not going to walk away from that challenge. We made a number of calls which were the right calls in terms of stabilising the economy, investing in our public services, and not getting dragged into the Iran war. But we also made unnecessary mistakes. And my job now is to set out the steps that we will take to bring about the change that people want and deserve.
Yeah, to be clear, you are not going to resign.
No, I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos.
He just says the same things over and over again. I'm not going to walk away, and I'm not going to plunge the country into chaos. What an idiot. What an idiot. They're just saying the same rehearsed line over and over again. Pathetic. He continued, people are still frustrated. Their lives aren't changing fast enough. We haven't offered enough hope or optimism for the future. I was elected to change this country. Tough days like this don't weaken my determination to do that. They strengthen it. Labour is on course to suffer one of its worst ever electoral defeats, having lost control of long-held heartland areas like Hartlepool, Redditch, Tamworth and Thameside. The Financial Times has predicted that Labour is on track to lose between 1,500 and 1,800 councillors in the run-up to these elections. John McDonnell, Labour MP, told LBC, reflecting on Labour's election wipeout, that Labour's organisational grassroots structure was gone. Membership has dropped by at least a half. The people who were going out and working on the ground are no longer there. And that's true. The people who were working hard, leafleting and knocking on doors, most of them are no longer there because they've been purged from the party, because they're too left. They were too close to Corbyn. They were Corbynites. And the Labour PLP smeared them as anti-Semites, and they purged them from the party. So now they haven't got the boots on the ground that they used to have when Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party. So they brought this on themselves. Lammy, Healy in Keir's corner. The Guardian reported that David Lammy, Starmer's Labour Together friend, both of whom are linked to Mandelson, is urging patience. Lammy is currently the Deputy Prime Minister. You don't change the pilot during a flight. You carry on, and you recognise too that governments sometimes, particularly incumbent governments, have it hard. But of course, we will reflect on what we're hearing from the electorate. There's a lot of frustration. Defence Secretary John Healey is also on Starmer's side so far, praising Starmer's pledge to increase defence spending as the hallmark of his leadership this morning to Sky News. He also said that he was part of Blair's team, which lost 1,100 council seats in 1999, but went on to win the next two general elections. So there's still hope for Labour. I think I'll start that sentence again. He also said that he was part of Blair's team, which lost 1,100 council seats in 1999, but went on to win the next two general elections. So there's still hope for Labour. Whatever you say, John. Healy and Lammy are both supporters of Keir's genocide in Gaza. However, other voices asking him to go. Dave Watts, a former Labour MP, has written a whole opinion piece for the Huffington Post, saying that Andy Burnham should replace Starmer. Jonathan Brash, Labour MP, told The Guardian, "I think the very best thing the Prime Minister could do now is address the nation tomorrow and set out a timetable for his departure." Ed Miliband has also reportedly privately urged Starmer to consider setting out a timeline for his resignation, according to The Times. This is from Bloomberg. UK Energy Secretary Ed Miliband privately urged Prime Minister Keir Starmer to consider setting out a timeline for his resignation amid concerns that losses in the local election will force him out of office, the Times newspaper reported. Unions are also beginning to call for Starmer to go. ITV's Paul Brand posted on X saying that unions were calling for Starmer to leave. He said this, "Union rumblings begin. TSSA union calls for a change of Labour leader." Starmer may have received a stay of execution this weekend, according to Sky News' Beth Rigby, but Starmer will face much louder calls to leave as the local election results are picked over. Starmer is hanging on, but with MPs, unions, and even Miliband whispering for him to go, the chaos he says he's preventing might have already be here. Purple says this, "Not to plunge the country into chaos. Shouldn't that be something you expect of every politician, and they shouldn't need to say it?" Yeah, exactly. Of course, it was all the other parties' fault. Come to think of it, Trump never did promise not to plunge the country into chaos. Does that mean we can't hold that one against him? Yes, exactly. But Keir Starmer has brought this on himself. He lies and he lies and he lies again. He's U-turned dozens of times now. He goes back on promises. He's made life more difficult for the disabled, more difficult for trans people, more difficult for the elderly. He's accepted more freebies than any other prime minister in recent history. He's a genocide enabler. No wonder he's so hated. And he said to people on the left, if you don't like the changes I've made to the party, the door is open and you can leave. And so they did leave and they joined the Green Party. And they voted for the Greens in these local elections. So, in my opinion, Keir Starmer he's only got himself to blame, and he should. In my opinion, Keir Starmer only has himself to blame, and he should resign. But on the other hand, I think it's too late. Even if he does resign, it doesn't matter who takes over as leader of the Labour Party. The damage has been done. The Labour are finished. They're going to lose the next general election. But whether they lose it to Reform or the Green Party remains to be seen. A lot can happen in the next 3 years. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, let's move on. Still got quite a lot to get through. There's loads to get through. What next? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at my notes. That would help. Yes. Actually, not that one. That's kind of all over the place. That's I'll try to find a different article actually that says that let's have a look. No, not that one. Sorry about it. This is let's try that one. Okay, This is from CNN. Leading challenger to UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer quits government. There's a photograph of Wes Streeting there. Wes Streeting has resigned as Britain's Health Secretary, saying Thursday that he has lost confidence in Prime Minister Keir Starmer's leadership and that it would be dishonourable and unprincipled to remain in his government. The move comes after days of speculation about whether Streeting would formally challenge Starmer's leadership of the Labour Party. In his letter to the Prime Minister, Streeting announced that his resignation from government, but did not say that he was launching a leadership contest. In order to trigger that contest, Streeting needs to gain the support of 1/5 of Labour's members of Parliament, at present 81 lawmakers. And that's the thing. This is why I think Wes Streeting hasn't triggered a leadership challenge, a leadership contest, because even though more than 90 Labour MPs have called on Keir Starmer to resign, it doesn't necessarily mean that 81 of those 90 MPs will back Wes Streeting, and he needs 81. He needs the support of 81 Labour MPs, and I don't think he's got that many Labour MPs, because otherwise I think he would have triggered the leadership contest on the same day that he resigned, but he didn't. Another reason that may be possible is that he doesn't want to go up against the strongest candidate, Andy Burnham. Or he may just be playing 4D chess and waiting for the right opportune moment, who knows? But in all seriousness, I think the most likely reason is that he can't get the 81 MPs to back him, and that's why he hasn't triggered his leadership contests. The article continues. Starmer has been facing new revolt. So I've got a frog in my throat tonight. The article goes on. Starmer has been facing a revolt in his Labour Party since it suffered a drubbing in local elections in England and Parliament in Scotland and Wales last week, which has spurred nearly 90 Labour lawmakers to publicly call for him to resign. Excuse me. Streeting is the first member of Starmer's cabinet to resign since the mutiny began. In his letter, Streeting said last week's elections had put nationalists in power in every corner of the country, referring to the success of Nigel Farage's hard right Reform UK party in England and of Scottish and Welsh nationalist parties, which he said could threaten the breakup of the United Kingdom. He said that progressive voters were losing faith in the Labour Party, citing Starmer's missteps, which he said had left the country not knowing who we are or what we really stand for. Where we need vision, we have a vacuum. Where we need direction, we have a drift, he said. Streeting claimed it is clear that Starmer will not lead Labour into the next general election during 2029. He said he wanted the debate about what comes next to be a battle of ideas, not personalities or petty factionalism. It needs to be broad and it needs to be the best possible field of candidates. So it looks like, for now at least, Wes Streeting will not be challenging Keir Starmer in a leadership contest. But let's see what happens, because that could change. He could, in the near future, get the backing of the 81 MPs that he needs to trigger a leadership contest. Let's see what happens. A lot can happen in politics. I'll start that sentence again. In politics, let's see what happens, because in politics, a lot can happen in just one day. But watch this space. And talking of, and since Wes Streeting looks like the one of the favourites to take over from Keir Starmer, I think it's a good idea to take a closer look at who he is. So let's do that. Let's have a look. This article is from the Daily Britain. This is from the Daily Britain. Wes Streeting has taken £372,000 from private health donors and just gave himself power over NHS drug prices. Is it time to ask who he's really working for? Excuse me. Who is paying and how much? The biggest single source of private health money flowing to Streeting is Peter Hearn, a recruitment executive whose companies work with both senior NHS management and private healthcare providers. The largest contribution to Streeting's political project has come from MPM Connect and OPD Group Limited, two companies controlled by Hearn, which have given the Ilford North MP a total of £144,900. Hearn personally donated a further £40,000 to Streeting between 2017 and 2019. In February this year, Streeting accepted £53,000 from OPD Group Limited, specifically to fund staffing in his constituency office. OPD is owned by Hearn, whose companies are described as by every doctor as working with senior NHS executive recruitment and helping private sector providers recruit healthcare professionals. The nature of OPD's business, placing people into NHS management roles while also serving private healthcare clients, sits uncomfortably alongside its role as a major funder of the man responsible for NHS policy. Next on the list is John Armitage, a hedge fund manager with interests worth more than $500 million in United Health, the largest healthcare insurer in the United States. Armitage has bent false treating, including for staffing costs, to the tune of $95,000 since 2022. United Health is one of the most significant potential beneficiaries of NHS privatisation, having spent millions lobbying US politicians against healthcare reform. In the same month as the OPD payment, Streeting also accepted £5,000 from Sir Trevor King, a senior advisor to a firm holding investments in several private health companies. And in my opinion, the one good thing to come out of all of this is that Streeting is no longer the health minister. So he's no longer in charge of the NHS because, in my opinion, he has a vested interest in the private sector. It's in his interests to privatise the NHS by stealth. And he's been selling off parts of the NHS to BlackRock. And it was my fear that if he stayed health minister, he would have privatized even more parts of the NHS. And who knows what damage he'll do to the NHS if he becomes the next Prime Minister. And it's also worth noting that Sir Trevor King is also a well-known lobbyist for Israel. So there's that to take into consideration as well. The pattern over time. Good Law Project research shows that more than 60% of the money donated to Streeting since he entered Parliament in 2015 has come from companies and individuals with links to private health. These are not one-off payments from opportunistic donors. They represent a decade-long pattern of financial support from a specific sector that has direct commercial interest in the decisions Streeting makes as Health Secretary. Since assuming the role of Health Secretary in July 2024, Streeting has continued to receive financial support from private health-connected sources at a rate of nearly £10,000 a month, adding a total of $372,000 in declared donations from such entities since 2015. All donations are declared and legal. Streeting has consistently argued that the pattern is not evidence of improper influence, but legality and transparency are not the same thing as an absence of conflict of interest. And the sheer scale and consistency of the financial relationship between the Health Secretary and the private health sector has drawn sustained criticism from across the political spectrum. And that's a good point. Just because it's legal, it doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't make it right at all. They are right. There is a conflict of interest here. I don't think someone who is in charge of the NHS should have received so many donations from the private health sector. It is a conflict of interest. I don't care what he says. I think I won't read all of this article because it's quite long. So I think I'll skip a bit. Let's skip a bit. What the critics say. Joe Mauam, the executive director of the Good Law Project, was direct. The private healthcare market is worth about £13 billion in the UK, a fraction of 1% of GDP. Yet West Streeting's financial backing comes overwhelmingly from those with interests in private healthcare. Those backers are not stupid, and this is not a remarkable coincidence. What do those backers think they are getting for their money? It's our NHS, and we have a right to know. Yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. These backers, from interests in private healthcare, they're not donating all this money to West Streeting out of the goodness of their hearts. They want something in return, and this needs to be investigated. Economist Faiza Shaheen, appearing on BBC Question Time, said the donations raise difficult questions. You have to look behind every politician. Doctors for the NHS, alongside 7 other organisations, including We Own It and Every Doctor, wrote an open letter to Streeting, calling on him to publish his communications with private health-linked donors in the same way he published his WhatsApp messages with Peter Mandelson. With 60% of your donations coming either from the private healthcare sector or from individuals with a financial interest in the private healthcare sector, you can demonstrate that your NHS reforms are driven by principle rather than undue influence, the letter said. Streeting has not published those communications. The Department of Health and Social Care did not respond to requests for comment on the donation figures. I wonder why Streeting has not published the communications. I wonder what he's got to hide. It's a bit suspicious if you ask me. Streeting's defence. Streeting has consistently argued that treating the NHS patients in the private sector is not only pragmatic but principled, that using private capacity to cut waiting lists is in patients' interests, regardless of where the money to fund his office comes from. His supporters point to genuine achievements. NHS waiting lists have fallen by more than 330,000 since he took office, to their lowest level in nearly 3 years. The NHS delivered 18.4 million treatments in 2025. In 2025, the NHS delivered 18.4 million treatments in 2025, the highest in its history. These are not trivial accomplishments. But his critics argue that the question is not whether the NHS has improved under his tenure, it is whether his reforms are being shaped by the evidence about what is best for patients or by the financial relationships he has cultivated with a sector that stands to profit enormously from the direction of travel he is choosing. And I think I'll leave the article there. Purple says this: legality and ethics are not the same thing either. Ethics is doing what is right. Legality is doing whatever you can get away with. Yeah, that's a good point. I also want to share these graphics with you. This is from Politics Joe. £372,000, the amount Wes Streeting accepted from donors linked to private healthcare between 2015 and 2025, estimates the Good Law Project. £53,000, according to Parliament's Register of Members' Financial Interest. This included £53,000 in February 2025 from OPD Group, which offers headhunting services to the NHS and the private healthcare sector. Streeting said the donation was towards staffing costs in my constituency office. £5,000. The same month, Streeting accepted £5,000 to support campaigning in Ilford North from Travis Shin, a senior advisor to private equity firm CVC Capital Partners, which holds investments in several private health companies. The former health secretary has previously argued that treating NHS patients in the private sector is not only the pragmatic thing to do, but also principled. Scrutiny has been renewed into Labour's links with private companies following reports that US tech giant Palantir will be granted unlimited access to patient data. And I think Wes Streeting is compromised here. He's compromised by these donations from private healthcare. I think Wes Streeting is clearly compromised. He's clearly compromised. He has. So I'm struggling to get I'm struggling to get my thoughts out. I think Wes Streeting is clearly compromised here, and he needs to answer a lot of questions about his links to private healthcare. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Purple says this: make all elected officials be covered under the National Health. Then you will see an immediate improvement in the NHA, in the NHS, as I expect she means. And talking of Palantir, there's something else I want to talk about. I want to talk about Palantir as well, because this is quite worrying. Okay. This next story is from Digital Health. Palantir to be granted unlimited access to NHS patient data. NHSE plans to give Palantir and other external staff admin roles with broad access to identifiable patient data on the Federated Data Platform. The move marks a shift from case-by-case access approvals and has raised internal concerns about risks to public trust and data security. Critics warn expanded access could increase the risk of major data breach, while the NHS and Palantir say strict controls and oversight remain in place. The NHS is granting staff from companies including Palantir unlimited access to identifiable patient data while working on its federated data platform, the Financial Times reported. The change, outlined in an internal briefing note seen by the Financial Times, relates to the National Data Integration Tenant, described as a safe haven for data before it's pseudonymized and shared with other systems, the report said. NHS England will create an admin role granting Palantir staff unlimited access to the NDIT and identifiable patient data, the Financial Times added. As well as Palantir employees, this could include staff from consultancy firms who have been drafted in to work on the FDP. The change marks a clear shift from the current practice, which requires individual working with the NDIT to apply for clear data access for specific data sets. An NHS England spokesperson told Digital Health News, the NHS has strict policies in place for managing access to patient data and carries out regular audits to ensure compliance, including monitoring the work of engineers helping to set up the central data collection platform that will track NHS performance and help improve care for patients. Anyone external requiring access must have government security clearance and be approved by a member of NHS England staff at director level or above. The briefing document, written by a senior NHS official in April 2026, acknowledges that granting enhanced permissions could mean there is a risk of loss of public confidence when it comes to safeguarding patient data and ensuring appropriate use to access to it. While broad access was originally intended only for NHSE employees with security clearance, the Financial Times reported that the briefing noted that external workers had requested the same permissions, as it is too inconvenient to apply for all the necessary individual CDAs. A Palantir spokesperson told the Financial Times, to the NHS and all our customers, we are designated by law as a data processor with our customers' data controllers. That means that Palantir software can only be used to process data precisely in line with the instruction of the customer. Using the data for anything else would not only be illegal, but technically impossible due to granular access controls overseen by the NHS. This is not only about Palantir, hence we have referred to non-NHSE staff, but there is currently considerable public interest and concern about how much access to patient data Palantir staff have, the briefing states. The note recommends that a cap be placed on the number of external admins with access to the NDIT, which should also be time limited and regularly reviewed. Saif Abed, founding partner of cybersecurity advisory services at the Abed Graham Group, told Digital Health News, "I fear lessons have not been learnt from the recent UK biobank incident, which in itself is a national scandal. Granting admin access should never be done lightly, and certainly not at scale. We are one admin compromise, such as with an infostealer malware or insider threat away from a data breach of unseen proportions in terms of UK patient data." US analytics firm Palantir signed a £330 million contract in 2023 to provide the FDP, which connects data across NHS organisations. The company's involvement has been highly controversial, with ethical concerns around its links to the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, leading to the government admitting that it could consider alternatives to Palantir's FDP when the contract reaches its break clause. So they're connected to ICE as well, are they? I didn't know that, actually. That's concerning, isn't it? Oh, good day from Aussie Logic. Welcome. And it gets weirder, as we shall see from this next article. This is from The Informed Alarmist on Substack. Palantir, how tech bros misread Tolkien. In J.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, the Palantiri were magical orbs that could give their users a vision of something taking place far away. Only very powerful and capable beings, such as Saruman the Wizard, Denethor, the leader of Gondor, and the big baddie Sauron, were able to use these seeing stones. But even the very wise could be deceived by what they saw, and using a Palantir led to their downfall. For a nerd such as myself, the Palantiri are a sinister symbol of hubris and a tool of manipulation. So a red flag went up as soon as I heard about a company called Palantir Technologies, a data analytics surveillance company that primarily works with the military, immigration control, and intelligence communities. I was incredulous that anyone would name their data mining company after a tool that promises foresight but ultimately leads to ruin. Yeah, that is really interesting, isn't it? Why would they name their company after the all-seeing orb that is used by the bad guys to spy on and manipulate people? That is, that's that's worrying, isn't it? Incredible stuff. And then I realized that Palantir is one of Peter Thiel's companies. Like Mithril Capital, named after Middle-earth's most precious mineral, or Ondriel Industries, named after Aragon's sword, these seemingly playful names actually help paint an increasingly clear picture of the repugnant neo-reactionary movement that Thiel and Elon and the other billionaire trolls running our country are a part of. One part of Saruman's hubris, one part dwarf-like lust for minerals, and one part confidence in the inevitable greatness of the men of the West. Andriel, don't you know, means flame of the West. But what all of this tells me is that Theol and his ilk have drawn all the wrong lessons from Lord of the Rings. The most vivid lesson comes from the story of Denethor, who was brilliant, strong-willed, and utterly devoted to the cause of Gondor, but was also jealous of rivals and insecure about his power being usurped by Gandalf and Aragorn. Sauron is able to subtly shift what Denethor sees in his Palantir in order to magnify his fears, leading him to despair and inaction. Saruman, as a wizard, was even more prideful and powerful than Denethor, but he had devotion to nothing but himself and was thus easy to manipulate. Sauron showed the wizard exactly what he wanted to see in the Palantir and bound Saruman to his purpose. Like Sauron, Theo and Anarak's movement want a new world order with themselves at the top, and their accelerationist philosophy means that they will raise the White City, burn the Westfold, and turn the Shire into a crypto mining wasteland to get it. They see our era in apocalyptic terms, war of the last alliance, the end of an age, and all that. But for Tolkien, hope was essential. Denethor's despair led to his death, which meant he could play no part in saving Gondor. As Gandalf also showed, giving up hope is irrational and might even cause the doom we all wish to avoid. Only when we know for certain there is no way out should we stop trying to act on our hope. We should not be deceived by seeming certainty given to us by the Palantir. Hope is the antidote to apocalyptic nihilism. Interesting, isn't it? Imagine naming your company after the all-seeing orb used by the bad guys. You've got to wonder about the psychology behind that. Unbelievable. Purple says this: any connection to ice is concerning, and any pollution or corporation that does not distance themselves from ice needs to be shunned. Yeah, exactly. She says, never die unless you are positive you have already exhausted all other options. Yeah, that's right. So I think Palantir gaining unlimited access to patient data, it's worrying. It's quite concerning to say the least. But let me know what you think in the comments. Whew. Okay. Still got. I'm not sure if I'm going to do all. If I'm going to get through everything, because there's a lot to get through here. But we'll see. Let's close that one. I don't think we need that one anymore. I don't think we need that. Okay. Yes. We've done that one. Okay. I think I know which one to do next. Okay. Oh, you only need one more subscriber for 400. Yes. Brilliant. That's excellent. That's brilliant. Yeah, because my first goal is 500 subscribers. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's good. That's brilliant news. Okay. This next story is from The Guardian. Nigel Farage faces inquiry over £5 million gift from crypto billionaire. Watchdog to examine whether Reform UK leader should have declared sum he received before entering Parliament. Nigel Farage is facing a formal investigation by the Parliamentary Standards Watchdog over £5 million gift from the crypto billionaire Christopher Harborne. The Reform UK leader received the money weeks before announcing he would stand as a candidate in the 2024 general election. Farage has said the gift, first revealed by The Guardian, was intended to cover his personal security costs and therefore did not need to be declared. However, other parties argued that the money from the Thailand-based businessman falls within the rules requiring MPs to declare any potentially relevant gifts or donations received in the 12 months before entering Parliament. Daniel Greenberg, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, is understood to have begun an investigation under Rule 5 of the Code of Conduct, obliging MPs to fulfil conscientious obliging MPs to fulfil conscientiously requirements relating to their registration of interests. It states that new MPs must register all their current financial interests and any registrable excuse me. It states that new MPs must register all their current financial interests and any registrable benefits other than earnings received in the 12 months before the election. This must be done within 1 month of their election, and they must register any change in those registrable interests within 28 days. If the investigation finds Farage committed a particularly serious breach of parliamentary declaration rules, he could be suspended from the Commons. A suspension of 10 days or more could trigger a recall petition, potentially forcing him to fight again for his Clacton seat. That is brilliant. That would be brilliant if that happens. He deserves it. He has hardly shown any interest in Clacton whatsoever since he's become the MP there. His constituents have said that he's hardly ever there. They hardly ever see him at all. So he doesn't deserve that seat. So I think it would just be brilliant. It'd be absolutely brilliant if he has to fight for that seat again, because I think it's inevitable that he'll lose that seat because he's not popular there in Clacton. So let's hope that happens. That'd be brilliant. There is no fixed timetable for investigations by the Commissioner, as individual cases vary in complexity. A speech Farage was to give on Thursday evening to supporters in Sunderland, a key target for reform, was temporarily postponed by the party after the investigation was announced. Reform said the reason for the postponement was the chaos in government and an impending Labour leadership race. However, news of the investigation has overshadowed attempts by the party to capitalise on its historic breakthrough in the elections last week. A Reform UK spokesperson said Mr Farage's office in communications with the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, he has always been clear that this was a personal, unconditional gift and no rules were broken. We look forward to this being put to bed once for all. Yeah, right, sure. Unconditional. Yeah, I bet. Of course it was unconditional. Pull the other one. Farage also faces the prospect of a second inquiry after the Electoral Commission, the independent body that oversees elections and regulates political finance in the UK, received a complaint from the Conservatives over the £5 million from Harborne. The elections watchdog has told the Tories it is considering the complaint and will respond by the end of the week. It had said earlier that it would respond to the Conservatives by the 12th of May after the elections in Scotland, Wales and parts of England. A Conservative Party spokesperson said, £5 million is an enormous amount, more than most people earn in a lifetime. Nigel Farage needs to explain how he got it, why he got it, and why he didn't declare it. If there is a simple answer, then he should welcome these investigations. But like so often with reform, there's something very fishy about the whole story. Yeah, exactly. This crypto billionaire, he didn't give this £5 million. I refuse to believe that he gave this £5 million to Nigel Farage out of the kindness of his heart. He needs to answer the question, why? Why was this £5 million given to him? Because it wasn't unconditional. I refuse to accept that. He wants something in return. Of course he does. Anna Turley, the chair of the Labour Party, said after news of the Standards inquiry broke, Nigel Farage has been avoiding legitimate questions since news of his billionaire backer's gift. It's right that he faces a proper investigation. Farage and Reform clearly believe it's one rule for them and another for everyone else. Harborne has become a pivotal figure in British politics, bankrolling Farage personally and the parties he has led over the past 7 years. Last year, the businessman donated £9 million to Reform UK, the largest single donation by a living person to a British political party. In total, he gave £12 million to the party in 2025. Asked about the gift on the BBC, one of Reform's MPs, Danny Kruger, reiterated the party's position on Wednesday that the money was not a political donation. Yeah, right. It was made before he was an MP, before he was back in politics. He has explained it. This was a gift made directly to Nigel, and he has explained he will be using that money to pay for his own security, which the government does not pay for. He is a high-risk politician, and for the rest of his life, he is going to need very expensive security, and he has that now funded personally. But surely, if he becomes Prime Minister, he won't need to pay for his own security for the rest of his life. Because if he becomes Prime Minister, the government will provide funds for his security. Surely. So to say that he'll need that money for his own security for the rest of his life is nonsense, especially if he's going to become Prime Minister. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to me. Chris FF4DC says he got the 5 million because Starmer cut his security. He says, how many lefty MPs are seen by their constituency? And he says, I have a Labour MP and is never seen. Fair enough. But in my opinion, this is dodgy as fuck. Nigel Farage needs to answer a lot of questions about this. This is really dodgy. No one gives that amount of money and expects nothing in return. And he has a lot of questions to answer, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's see. I think we've okay, just 2 more stories, then I think I'll call it a night. Okay, it's 5 to midnight now. um, this is hilarious. This is from The Poke. Keir Starmer responded to Labour's election crisis by bringing fresh blood like Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, announced in a weird video 20 amused and baffled responses. Keir Meep Starmer has acknowledged. Sorry, I'll start that again. Keir Meep Starmer has acknowledged that the 2026 local elections were a bloodbath for Labour, with the party losing close to 1,500 councillors, mostly, it seems, to Reform UK. The Prime Minister said this weekend that in the coming days I will be setting out our path to break with the status quo once and for all by building a stronger and fairer UK. And nothing says breaking with the status quo like drafting a former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, and former Deputy Party Leader, Harriet Harman, into the team. This is the tweet from UK Prime Minister. Today, Keir Starmer appointed Harriet Harman as advisor on women and girls, and Gordon Brown as special envoy on global finance cooperation. Brown will be special envoy on global finance, while Harman will focus on social and economic improvements for women and girls. Though you wouldn't know that from the strange dialogue-free video Downing Street released on Saturday of Starmer meeting with the two Labour grandees. Here's the tweet from Keir Starmer. Together we will build a stronger and fairer Britain. And here's the video. Oh my God. The state of this. Gordon Bennett. Oh my God. Unbelievable. And people are bemused, amused, and baffled by Starmer's latest move, as well as the framing of the video. Here's a selection of the responses. This is from Ben Smoke. Why have they set up a shot so it looks like Reeves is officiating their wedding? LMAO. It does. It so does. It looks like she's marrying them, for goodness sake. Unbelievable. That is so fucking funny. This is from Roe, the Hill Fall. Do you, Keir, take this Gordon to having to hold in poll collapse and in council loss until the next leadership challenge? Do you part? Oh, God. This is from Dan Hodges. I genuinely think someone in Downing Street has gone mad. Yeah, for once I agree with him. James Melville said this: "You've had 2 years to build a stronger and fairer Britain, but instead you punished the disabled, students, pensioners, pub owners, farmers, waspy women, small businesses. You took a wrecking ball to the economy. You hired Mandelson. No one is buying this claptrap anymore." Yeah, good point. Peter Blexley said, "Deluded, out of touch, incompetent." I could go on. Owen Jones said, "Anyway, this video is completely insane." Yeah, I agree. Philip Proudfoot said, Adam Curtis voiceover. "In 1994, a group of men made a decision. They believed that if they could just make people feel that things were a little bit better, no one would notice that nothing had changed. They called it modernization. 33 years later, a lawyer from... Oh. 33 years later, a lawyer from Holborn looked at the wreckage of that project and decided to try it again, but it was a fantasy. And when the world began to fall apart, it was revealed that once again nothing had really changed, and the lawyer from Holborn also believed in nothing." Philip Proudfoot also said, "This is the neoliberal technocrat version of that Hitler bunker scene in Downfall." Oh my God. Lewis Staples tweeted, "When Bravo brings back an OG Real Housewife to save a dying franchise." Jeremy Gilbert said, "Every friend who's gone green told me they'd back Labour if Harriet Harman were given a minor government role. It's a truism that reform voting leavers adore Gordon Brown, whose hostility to globalisation and sympathy with working class anti-immigration sentiment are legendary." Barry Malone said, "I have no idea who this is supposed to appeal to." Yeah, exactly. Who is this video for goodness sake? God Bless Toto said, "This is honestly the weirdest behaviour. I don't even know what to make of it. He's lost the plot entirely. This is bizarre." He's just trolling us at this point, isn't he? Wet flannel, says Gracie. Super TV says this: "The TV equivalent of Keir Starmer bringing back Gordon Brown is the X Factor bringing back Cheryl, or Doctor Who bringing back David Tennant, or Big Brother bringing back Farida." Jess Barnard said, 2 years into the job, It's bizarre Starmer hasn't got a grasp of comms, historic election defeat, and he churns out this. Zero political messaging, awkward and staged behind closed doors. Compare with Mandani, clear political messaging, charismatic, filmed in the community. Yeah, exactly. Harriet Simmons said this. Lots of Labour MPs baffled by this decision. One MP texts, a rerun of noughties politics is one of the reasons why we start that again. Harriet Simmons says, lots of Labour MPs baffled by this decision. One MP texts, a rerun of noughties politics is one of the reasons we're in this mess. Yeah, they're right. Tom London says, probably worst relaunch ever. Luke Trial said, one of the biggest messages coming out of this election was that, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Luke Trill said, one of the biggest messages coming out of the election was that the electorate's impatience for change is stronger than ever. I'm not sure that's the message this conveys. Good point. Tom Mills said, no words. Don't mean I'm speechless. There are literally no words here except Gordon Brown and not really sure how to process that message. Yeah, exactly. Vlad Vexler said, this video is like standing on the deck of Titanic at 23:40 on the 14th of April 1912 and saying, oh, for goodness sake, Vlad Vexler said, this video is like standing on the deck of the Titanic at 11:40 on the 14th of April 1912 and saying, we've got this, she cannot sink. And, oh, that's the last one. Purple says, you better call it at night before you have to call it a morning. I mean, who greenlit this video? It's really weird, really awkwardly staged. And there's no dialogue whatsoever. I mean, who is this for goodness sake? It's so ridiculous. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, final story. This is weird. Pastor leads wild dedication ceremony for Trump's giant gold statue at his own golf course. The president himself called into the ceremony to thank the religious leader and guests in attendance. A towering gold statue of Donald Trump was unveiled at the president's golf course in Doral, Florida, during an emotionally charged ceremony presided over by an evangelical pastor. Placed on a pedestal in a clearing of palm trees, the 22-foot colossus depicts the president thrusting his fist into the air, echoing his defiant gesture after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. At Wednesday's dedication ceremony, the sculpture was draped in white and blue fabric, resembling a Greek toga. It was encircled by a few dozen guests seated in chairs as Pastor Mark Burns, a member of Pastors for Trump, spoke at a podium. I'm pretty sure that God frowns on this sort of thing. I'm pretty sure there were dire consequences for leaders who erected gold statues of themselves, and I'm pretty sure he had thousands of people killed for erecting a golden calf when Moses came down the mountain after receiving the Ten Commandments. And I'm pretty sure God is against idol worship in one of the Ten Commandments. I'm pretty sure is, you shall not make yourself an idol. I'm pretty sure that's one of the Ten Commandments, isn't it? Today at Trump National Doral, Miami, we witnessed an unforgettable moment, Burns wrote on social media, before emphasizing that the gilded effigy was not a false idol. I think you're in denial, mate. Let me be clear, this is not a golden calf. He said, this statue is a celebration of life. It's a symbol of resilience, freedom, patriotism, strength, and the will power to keep fighting for the future of America. Yeah, you keep telling yourself that. Look, there's a photo of the golden statue. A pastor dedicated a 22-foot golden statue of Donald Trump at his golf course in Florida on Wednesday, saying it stands as a reminder of the hand of God and his protection over President Trump's life. Goodness sake. Yeah, it may not be a golden calf, but I'm pretty sure that in the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar was punished for having a golden statue of himself erected. I'm pretty sure that God made him mad and made him crawl around on all fours, eating the dirt for years. But I can't remember how many years, until he eventually repented. So for this pastor to say that it's not a golden idol is he's delulu. He's delulu. He's just lying to himself. It's idol worship, pure and simple. There's no other term for it. No, there's another picture of it there. Burns, who had previously described the president as divinely appointed, added that the sculpture stands as a reminder that God is protecting Trump's life, and a nod to the multiple assassination attempts he has survived. At one point during the proceedings, Burns held his cell phone up to the microphone and the president's voice rang out. I want to thank Mark Burns, a pastor. He's a good pastor. He's a good man, Trump said. I've known him a long time. He's been with me from the beginning, right from the beginning, maybe about 2 days later. Oh my God. I want to thank everybody there, he added. I know it was done from love. The statue, which rises 15 feet atop a 7-foot base, was commissioned and bankrolled by a collective of crypto investors seeking to boost visibility for their meme coin and Patriot, according to the Daily Beast. I can't keep a straight face. I can't read this with a straight face. I'm sorry. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. This is utterly ridiculous. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. Amazing scenes. Sculptor Alan Cottrell told The Times in February that he agreed to create the bronze figure for $300,000, but complained that the investors were slow in paying. In November, he proposed coating it in gold leaf. His suggestion went down like an offering of water to a person dying of thirst, he said. Immediately, everybody jumped on board. Cottrell, who has molded the likeness of 16 presidents, said he was holding the statue hostage in a warehouse until he was paid the total agreed upon sum. In a statement to the outlet, the crypto investors said that the statue was paid in full a year ago, adding, "He's an amazing artist, and despite his comments, we greatly appreciate the work he completed on this historic statue." It's far from the first sculpture of the Republican president to be erected in the US, though it may be the most flattering. Purple says, making no idols is the very first of the 10 Commandments. Yeah, yeah, I thought it was. She says, they completely missed the point. God didn't care that it was a cow. God got pissed off that they were pledging themselves to anything other than him. Yeah, exactly. How well do you think gold leaf is going to hold outside in the weather? Oh my days. And the thing is, if there is a God, and I'm inclined to believe that there isn't, but if there is, and it's Yahweh, the God of the Bible, then Trump having this golden statue erected is curtains for him. It won't be long before God strikes him down, surely. We can but hope, and those of us believe, pray. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Right, okay, I think we're done. Yeah, thank you to Purple for sticking with it right to the end. That's much appreciated. And thanks to everyone else who has been watching and who has contributed as well. I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that it won't be long before I reach my first goal of 500 subscribers. So if you're watching this after the fact and you've made it this far, then thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing and leaving a comment, because that will really help me out with the algorithm. Okay, bye for now.